Hey, my friends, Kevin here. In this video, I want to talk about the 5 core marketing skills to have and to hire for. And these are just the high-level skills that I think are really important for you to have as a marketing practitioner, as a marketing strategist or leader, as well as to hire for, to help compensate for your weaknesses and to help round out your marketing team if you are in that leadership strategic position. If you're new around here, my name is Kevin Whelan. I'm a marketing advisor and have done so since 2016. And I help businesses grow with effective marketing and systems and strategies in my consulting practice. And I also help other marketing consultants build highly leveraged and profitable businesses by selling their expertise and not just their hands. So in this video, I want to really break down what are the core skills that you need to have as a strategist, as well as what do you need to hire for as a strategist to help execute the work that needs to get done. And so why is this important? First and foremost, the more skilled you are in these 5 areas, the more effective your results are going to be, because you kind of need all of these pieces to come together to create effective marketing. Now, most of us leaders and strategists, we're decent in a number of these areas. We tend to be deeply specialized in 1, maybe 2 areas. We're kind of T-shaped, and we're capable in a broad number of other of these 5 areas that I'm going to talk about in just a second. And so your goal is to help double down on what your core strengths are, to get decent at executing and then sometimes managing and bringing together the other parts to create a more effective marketing program overall. So let's get into it now. What are the core skills? I'll just walk you through them. This is my framework. This isn't any definitive be all and end all. These are just the things that I think are important that I've noticed in my business. So now, first and foremost, we have a writing and communications person. I've always said, if you can give me a writer, even give me someone who can effectively communicate in any form, I can turn them into a marketer. And so this to me is a very fundamental skill that you're going to want to get good at, even if you're not naturally good at it. Not all these skills you're going to need to get great at, but you need to get good at writing and communicating, because effectively you're persuading, and marketing is about communications. So first and foremost, if you're not a great writer, you want to work in your writing, but also you want to be able to hire great writers and great communicators, because at the end of the day, all marketing is a form of communication, and it begins with writing. So that's number 1. Number 2 is design and visual. So being a good writer does not make you a great designer or a video editor or a photographer or anything to do with the visual creative side of things. And so whether that's web design, whether that's designing assets that you're going to use in your marketing, whether that's ads and creative or video editing, you want someone who's going to be capable at looking at the aesthetics of things and coming up with a creative perspective to it that also maps to the strategic stuff, so that when anything you're doing visually complements the business strategy overall. And that's true of all these 5 areas, by the way, that we're going to talk about, but also with design, it's not just about making things look pretty, it's about making things effective and visually compelling. Number 3 is an ad manager. So you may not need ads in the businesses that you help if you are a marketing strategist or leader. However, if you get to a certain size, ads become a very important part of growing and scaling. And so this is an area that, unless you're already skilled at and very interested in executing it, you're going to want to either find or develop enough knowledge to be able to manage marketing managers effectively. So this is a very distinct skill that is different than, but it yet involves copy, creative, writing, strategy, all the other components to it, but it is its own skill. Media buying is its own skill. And yes, as these platforms get more mature and as AI does more of the work for us on the ad management side, it's going to make it easier for you to DIY some of this stuff and to let the machines do the work for you. But I think that there's always a big component of it, which is the technical side of ad management. So become capable of it as a strategist, know how to guide it, know how to lead it, know how to measure it. But unless that's going to be your trade, delegate it. So it's, get good at managing, but find a very good, talented ad manager. And if you are selling ads as a service, then you are that person. And maybe you compensate for those other skills that you may or may not have, like the visual and the creative side, and the writing and communication side, as an example. So number 3 is an ad manager. Number 4 is a web developer or some kind of a technical person. Ideally, they may be different people. They may be the same person. And the thing about all of these is that these are really just high level kind of buckets of skill sets. Within these, there are many, many subspecialties. There is, under web development, you might have UX and wireframing. You might have code versus HTML versus CSS, plugins, integrations, IT, network support. Like there's all kinds of things, security. Like there may be all kinds of things that are tangential to, but maybe related to this core web developer tech/technical person role. And for me, this is one of my core skill sets. I've been building websites since I was a teenager back in the early 2000s. And so that's kind of what got me interested in marketing. But for you, that may be a weakness, in which case you want to find someone who's very talented on the technical side to help compensate for your lack of expertise in this area, which is true for all things, right? So yes, you want to get good at managing and leading all these things, but you definitely, when it comes to execution, you definitely want to have someone on hand who's able to really well execute the technical side for you. Now, these people are not hard to find depending on the level of technical skill you need, but you do want someone who's reliable and who understands and can do thinking for you, so you don't have to overly direct an area that's not your core competency. So a web developer or a technical person is a key person to have on your team, and a skill set that you may or may not have, in which case, if you don't have it, you want to compensate for it, especially well, which is true for all skills, but especially web. And just to take a step back, like a lot of marketing these days is digital. That's why I don't even use the term digital marketing anymore, but it was popular, say 8-10 years ago. So the way I'm looking at it is all web is digital. There's creative sides, there's communication sides, and then there's a technical and a digital side, which usually requires some kind of technical support. So this is just core to all of marketing today. It's really hard to exist without this unless you're purely doing, say, ads, but even ad agencies are doing a lot of digital campaigns as well. So really critical to have the skill. And then the last one, which is ideally you, although, it doesn't matter who it is, any marketing team needs a strategist or a leader ideally the same person, to help strategize, to plan, to measure, to analyze, to sometimes manage marketing. And so this is all that kind of same general person, although a manager and a strategist may not be the same person. They're all kind of related. It's really about leadership and taking the reins of what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Who are we going to do it with? How are we going to budget? How are we going to measure things? How are we going to analyze things? What are we going to do for research? And really think strategically, as well as managing and leading the marketing program. So that's typically where people in my world live. I typically work with marketing strategists, independent consultants, and that's their role. So that's what we want to focus on, is which of these 5 roles are you naturally good at, and which of them do you need to compensate for? And as you're building your Rolodex as a marketing consultant, one of the things we have to do is build our network of implementation specialists so that they can do the execution part while you oversee the implementation and bring all the pieces together and guide and strategize and analyze and measure and manage everything at a high level and lead everything with your clients. But you need these people on your team, and you ideally need to be decently tactically capable in each of these 5 core areas, or else you're not gonna be able to really get results, because a lot of marketing requires one or more of these skill sets. And so just to kind of clarify and take a step back, there's a bunch of things that exist within these. And for example, SEO may be requiring a technical person, may require a content person, may require a design person or a writer. And so there's like a lot of these things don't fit into neat boxes. So oftentimes any of these things that we're looking at, whether it's print may require a visual designer, a communicator/writer, and maybe a strategist to help bring it together strategically. But that's an example of multiple skill sets coming together. And so many of us can do many of these things reasonably well, but as you get bigger, as you get more specialized, you're going to want to bring in or really double down on your strengths and really get very, very good at some of these sub-specialties. So that you can get business results. Because at the end of the day, it's not enough to be a writer. You have to be able to be a business writer who can compel people to take action. You have to be able to create content that people want to consume. It's not enough to be a great designer. You have to be able to create design that actually drives business results, which can usually be measured on a spreadsheet, but also gives, there are subjective components to it. So there's many, many different types of marketing, oftentimes involving some of these 5 core skills. I look at them as crayons in a coloring box, if you will, crayons in a set, or markers or colors or paints. And as long as you have these 5 core main high-level buckets, a lot of times you can make interesting paintings. But if you want to paint like a hyper-realistic painting, you're going to want to have many more paints in your coloring box. So these 5 things kind of break down into many subparts. and they're very interconnected. So the thing I'll say is, as we're wrapping this up, is you want to get good at one or two core things and really become an expert. For me, I'm a strategist at this point, and I'm a leader, which means I'm good at things like analytics. I'm good at things like analysis, research, strategic thinking, planning, budgeting, management, process design. These are all things that I talk about in my 5 P's of marketing execution, which I'll do a video on at some point in the future, but exists in my membership. And so these are things that I'm developing and working on all the time. And that's what I help people do in my membership. But I come from a web development background, which required me to be decent at design. And then through creating websites, I realized people need help with communicating on their websites. So I became, a decent writer and did a lot of blogging ever since I was basically a teenager. And so, these are the skills you're going to develop, but typically you're good in one or two core areas, and you compensate for the things that either you're not good at or you don't want to do anymore by hiring experts in their individual craft. And that's where you want to have your Rolodex or your database of partners that you collaborate with as a marketing strategist, because by definition, as a strategist, you're still dealing with the tactics. You still have to lead, direct, manage, and sometimes do the implementation, write proof of concepts for websites, or, doing some of the rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty to help your clients get things over the line. But for the long tail of execution, you're going to want good partners to do these things for you. And so the weaker you are in those key areas, the more you want to hire competent people so you can both learn from them and work together and collaborate and become better at understanding the landscape of how these areas work, so you can better manage and lead and guide them to a business result. Because your job fundamentally as a strategist is to take all the pieces, digest all the landscape of the marketing, the landscape, and come up with competitive combinations of tactics and strategies that are going to help you get a business result for your client. So I'll leave it there. Double down on your strengths, and also compensate for them by hiring and continuing to learn. Always be learning new things. How to become a better writer, visual designer, learn more about ads and ad strategy and at the technical side. Become a better web developer to the extent you can, and a strategist at the end of the day is the main thing, so you get a business result. Thank you so much for your attention. If you want to get on my mailing list, kevin.me is where you're going to find my writings on this. I've written almost, 1,000 or so, 800 articles maybe, to help marketing professionals build more leveraged and profitable practices. So head on over to kevin.me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.